So today we are continuing to hear about the glories of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, our illustrious Param Guru, great-grandfather spiritual master, and the founder of our Gaudiya Math. And really, he brought us to a greater understanding of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and how to apply them in our life to experience the highest realization of our nature, our identity. And so we take shelter of him, remember his glories, and we pray for his eternal connection and shelter. I'm going to read a song glorifying him by his chief disciple, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. People have this idea, why are they both called Prabhupada? Prabhupada is a title given in scripture to very great spiritual teachers. It means someone who is able to bring a soul to the lotus feet of God, to connect them to God. Prabhupada, to give them the shelter of God, the Lord's lotus feet. And who is themselves always very nearby God. So they themselves are the lotus feet of God, and they are also so capable, so powerful, that they're able to bring the lost souls also to the lotus feet of God, where they are receiving eternal refuge, shelter, and happiness. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was given that title, Prabhupada, the great master, Jagat Guru, the world teacher. As a boy, his name is Bimal Prasad, the mercy of Bimala Devi, the energy of the Lord Jagannath. And later he was given the title Saraswati. Saraswati is the goddess of all learning or wisdom. And he was given that title because he was so intelligent that simply looking at anything once, he remembered it. Hearing anything once, he remembered it. He taught a prince. And during that time, he studied the whole library of a kingdom and memorized every single subject matter perfectly. And then he was able to elaborate upon it with his own intelligence. And anything he spoke, you could write it down and it would be like the most amazing thing you'd ever read. He would give lectures and people would just be awestruck. Great scholars of the English language themselves would have to consult dictionaries hearing his lecture. And they'd be blown away by his amazing intellectual display of wisdom, but it also brought them into a great experience. So our spiritual practice is there for us to experience loving devotion and connection. And the wisdom teaching opens up our heart to help us receive that experience and enter into that experience of ananda, or blissful connection to Krishna. So therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada is a very great personality in our line. Later on, he was given the title Bhaktisiddhanta. So he is Saraswati and he is Bhaktisiddhanta. So he gives the philosophy of bhakti, devotion, in a very profound way. His father's name is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so since Bhaktivinoda Thakur in our line, everyone is connected to this idea of bhakti. Traditionally, all the way from Lord Chaitanya and back to our original founders of our Brahma Sampradaya, Lord Brahma himself is the founder of our Sampradaya lineage, and he received initiation from Krishna. So our lineage goes all the way back to Krishna himself directly, then to Lord Brahma, to Sri Narad, to Sri Vyas, and so on and so forth. It has come down to us in the present day, and it is still continuing to this day, passed down from one realized master to another. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and then Goswami, who is completely controlling his senses and mind. And how has he done that? Because he has completely offered his body, mind, and senses to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Absolute. And therefore, he is always blissfully engaged in loving service. So for him, it's not difficult to control his senses because his senses are engaged in loving service. The more we're trying to control the mind, control the senses, the more they try to rebel. But they become so blissfully engaged in love and connection to God that there's no question of having to control your mind and senses because they're ecstatic, they're blissful. They're experiencing fulfillment, purpose, beauty, grace, happiness, joy. So at that time, it's described, a pig likes to eat stool. And it's very difficult to stop a pig from eating stool. It has taste for it. But that's at that conditioned stage of life. When you come to a very high evolved state of consciousness, you're no longer interested in that kind of experience of material, low-class taste. So he is Goswami not because he is forcefully controlling his senses. He is Goswami because he has offered himself completely in the shelter of Sri Krishna, and he is relishing ananda, bliss. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Anandam buddhi vardhanam. By this process of bhakti, we will immerse ourselves in an ocean of bliss. Pratipadang purna amrita swadam. At every step, we will taste complete transcendental nectar. So therefore, he is Goswami. What does it mean to be a Goswami? The 6 Goswamis are those who are completely love-immersed saints. at every moment experiencing their relationship with God and their unique individual nature. So this is an important aspect of our teaching. We're all unique spirit souls. We are here in this ashram. This is not a newly fashioned idea to have an ashram. Actually, ashrams have always been there since the beginning of creation. Lord Brahma himself started the first ashram. The first created being, the son of the Supreme Lord, came to self-realization by the Lord's mercy, chanted the Gayatri mantras, Gopal mantra, which is continuing to be given in this line. And by chanting those mantras, he achieved self-realization. And then he began an ashram. And he spoke about the power of this self-realization and the power of this bhakti process. By the path of bhakti, you can achieve anything you desire. If you want to become a king of heaven, a king of this earth, you can achieve that through the process of bhakti. The Bhagavat says, Akamo sarva kamo va moksha kamo dharati divrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. Whatever you desire as a human being can be achieved through the process of bhakti. Whether you want sovereignty over the world, whether you want liberation, or you want material enjoyments, it can all be achieved. But the most rarely achieved thing, which is that direct connection with God and divine love and a relationship with the absolute truth, is also available, but you must sincerely desire it. So our Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada is realized in that relationship. He's experienced that relationship. So by the process of bhakti, he comes to understanding that I am not just mind or intelligence or ego. I'm not this material body. I am spirit soul. And my spirit soul has an eternal, unique identity, characteristics, relationship with God, name, form, qualities, and activities that are transcendental beyond liberation. And so he's inviting us into that realm, inviting us into that understanding. And the scientific process of bhakti, taught by Srila Rupa Goswami, 64 limbs of the devotional process, primary 9, hearing, chanting, remembering, offering services, developing a mood of intimacy with the Lord through a direct personal worship, a connection to Him, offering of prayers, sincerely feeling like the Lord is your true friend, developing the mood of service, that I am a servant of God. My purpose in life is not to control and exploit and dominate. My purpose in life is to love and to serve and to connect in relationship with God and with His family and with each other and with reality. That is my purpose. So that is a mood. Bhakti is a mood, and bhakti is a practice, and it leads us to the experience of ecstasy. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada taught us this. Atmanivedanam, full self-surrender into the hands of the Absolute, Sri Krishna. And that is the process that we practice. Primary are 5 limbs. We hear about Krishna in good association. So sadhu sangha, hearing about Krishna is the 2nd. Remembering Krishna's beautiful name, form, qualities, and pastimes is the 3rd. Hearing the Bhagavat, I mentioned. Developing a relationship with the form of Krishna, the deity, as a way to absorb our mind in God and our thoughts in God and connect more deeply with Him, and residing in a holy place. So an ashram becomes a holy place when the center of the ashram is God, and we're worshiping God in that center of the ashram, and we're all connecting to God in loving harmony. So that ashram becomes a holy place. So therefore, then we can follow these 5 essential limbs of bhakti: to be in saintly association, to hear about spiritual discourses, spiritual topics about Krishna and about our soul, about the Atma, to speak, to sing, and also to distribute the message. Then the 4th is faithfully rendering of service to Krishna and residing in a holy place. So we can perform all those functions in the ashram. However, in this age, the most important limb of devotion is the process of hearing and distributing the message of Godhead. And that is our core focus in this ashram. We are distributing the message of our gurus, and we are hearing the message of our gurus, and that is leading us to the practice of their teachings. And through the practice of their teachings, we come to a state of experience or realization of our relationship with God, relationship with God's family, with each other, with reality, in a beautiful way, in a loving way. And that helps us, or automatically leads us to the experience of ananda, or bliss. So Brahma started an ashram like that. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada made many ashrams. In his time, he established 64 preaching centers, ashrams, communities. His chief disciple, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, opened over 100 centers in his time, and his disciples, by his vigorous, enthusiastic teaching to them about the importance of distributing this message, to this day, there are over 1,000 centers in his International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. So this is all due to the desire of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are the fathers of this Sankirtan movement. Sankirtan means to distribute this message of Godhead and to apply in our own life. So the primary limb of application is the kirtan, or the chanting together of these mantras, which includes dancing, singing, playing of instruments. It's a joyous, celebratory spiritual path. This path is not about being always sour-faced and miserable. It's about learning to laugh. All right? We were talking about this before class. In India, I would go on pilgrimage around the holy city of Mathura every day. And there was a certain area where many old men would come together and practice laughing. That was their practice. It's a very therapeutic practice, all right? Can we try it here now? All right. So that's how it starts. When you do laughter practice, it starts where it's a little artificial, but then inevitably it leads to genuine mirth. Mirth. Okay, so we can practice. Mother Chandrika, can we have a laugh? Come on, please. See, we can see everyone's uniqueness in their laughter. We've been talking about everyone is a unique spirit soul. Okay? We're all unique spirit souls, so everyone's laughter is different. Tirtha laughs like a drunk donkey. Okay. All right. So everyone has their own unique laugh. I would go every day, and in Mathura there was a wall on the Pikrama path near a temple, and many of these men would sit on the wall and practice laughing. And you could hear all their different unique flavors of the laughter. The point here is not to laugh as a kind of hatha yoga practice where we come together and we practice laughing. All right, everybody sit in line and laugh. Right? Do these exercises and laugh. No. Genuinely, there's a verse that Swapriya Nama Kirtya, by chanting of Kirtan, the names of God, when it awakens your relationship with God as your unique individual spirit, then it leads to joy. Your name Vinod means joy, right? And what is the natural effect of joy when you're joyful? Then hasotati rodati gayati unmada lokabhaya. You begin to laugh. You begin to weep with tears of ecstasy. Sometimes you'll roll on the ground, you'll sing, you'll jump. This is the process of spiritual life. And people think, this is ridiculous. I have friends who say, you know what? I like the whole Krishna thing, I like the whole bhakti thing, but all this like dancing in the streets, it's very embarrassing. Dancing in the streets, wearing orange robes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. What's with the dancing and the singing? Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare. Our gurus say God is love, love is God. By chanting these mantras, we come in contact with God, the God of love, who is the real highest form of the absolute truth. And so it leads to joyfulness. Hasodati rodati. Yes, and being embarrassed is good. But you should cross over that stage of embarrassment to think, actually, I am able to disregard. People think you have to be a gentleman. What does it mean to be a gentleman? To have a very polished exterior and to hide all your degraded activities. This is what it means to be a gentleman. To look good in public. That is what it means to be a gentleman. We are not interested in looking good in public. Our internal life, we're able to come together to sing and chant and pray to God. We're not worried about the perception of us, because we're coming to the state of perceiving God and being perceived by God, having His darshan and being present in His understanding, what we're doing here now, okay? This program, by chanting the names of Krishna, we are in His presence. By hearing the names of Krishna, we are in His presence. All we have to do is turn towards that reality and experience that reality. When we talk about mundane subject matters, we're not in the presence of God, because unless we use His name, the name of Krishna and Krishna are self-same. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said, Nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis. All of His energy is in His names. It is even more merciful than Him Himself, because He's appeared in this world as His name, and His name brings you to Him directly. And so His name is His agent of mercy. And by chanting His name, by hearing His name, by sharing His teachings, we are in Krishna's presence in this room. We are in Krishna's presence in His deity form. We are with Krishna's presence in His picture, in His books, in His teachings, and the kirtan. So this brings us to experience of joy. Our spiritual path is not a miserable path. It's a blissful path. There are two kinds of happiness. One is the perception of happiness through the gratification of the senses, but it's a material happiness. Jada rasa, material happiness. And it's not spiritual. It does not touch your spirit, but you're looking for it because your nature as a spirit is to look for happiness. Therefore, the Vedas say, Loka samasta sukhinu bhavantu. All beings in the world should be happy. We sing that in a very beautiful melody. Right? We can do it together. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy. All right? We have our devotee coming into the temple. So everybody, hope you're doing well tonight. So this is an important thing to understand. Why are we living in this ashram? What is the purpose of being in this ashram? To practice spiritual life. This is not a miserable process, but it's a process of love and dedication. The goal for us isn't sense enjoyment. The goal is to love God, to serve God, to be with His associates, to be with His devotees. But that naturally creates a blissful environment that naturally makes us joyful. All right? So first is to understand that God does not want you to suffer. All right? The purpose of life is not suffering. Purpose of life is not to be miserable. Purpose of life is to become joyful in a relationship. So one level of happiness is sense gratification, pleasure of the senses. But the more you want to indulge that, it becomes a hedonistic pursuit that can also lead to various forms of degraded activities or even violent acts. We see the demigods. We go to the demigod realm and we can enjoy our senses to the highest degree there. But what happens? The soul is still not satisfied because the soul is yearning for happiness, but it's a kind of happiness that is not material. It's not based off sense gratification. Love is not sense gratification. When you love something or when you love someone, that's a higher principle than the happiness of gratifying your sensual urges. Right? And so bhakti means a loving relationship with God where you are offering yourself in His service to His transcendental senses, but it's on a transcendental platform. The difference is night and day. It said love is like the effulgence of the sun, lust is like darkness. The darkest of nights versus the effulgence of the sun. That's the difference between love and lust. So, the endeavor to please God, to serve God, is the essential ingredient of your loving relationship, but that makes it reciprocal. And God and His beloved, His associates, are always trying to increase each other's happiness. So this is the higher levels of happiness. If we're enjoying our senses in a heavenly realm, eventually we will become dissatisfied with that because it's not quenching the essential thirst of the soul for happiness based off a relationship. I am part and parcel of God. Until I find my relationship with God, I will not be perfectly happy and content and fulfilled. I will not come to peace. So Krishna's devotees are peaceful. Because if we're just trying to gratify our senses, what will it lead to? More degraded forms of gratification, and we're not happy in that, and we're always changing efforts to gratify ourselves. But Bhakti Yoga brings us to a blissful state beyond that endeavor to simply please our senses or please our mind. And that leads us to the experience of joy or fulfillment. So the Bhagavat says a beautiful verse, Savai pungsam paro dharma yato bhakti radokshaje ahaitukya pratyata yatma suprasiddhati. That actually the dharma or the essential purpose of every human being, every living entity, you have to come to the stage of human life to actually be able to fulfill that. But every living entity, its purpose is it's to discover its relationship with God, that it is part and parcel of. The supreme whole, we are the part and we are naturally attracted towards that. And so we are looking for happiness, but we're not finding it, so we're becoming dissatisfied. And then we're continuing to seek. But bhakti means to actually discover that relationship through this process of bhakti. And then we become joyful. So don't think laughing is bad. Don't think smiling is bad. Don't think being happy is bad. It is the best thing. All right? Our Param Gurudev's name is Vinod. He is essentially always joyful. And we are worshipping Radha Raman. They're eternal beloveds, not eternal combatants. Not internal protagonist and antagonist. Many religions teach you about the essential conflict of life in this material world. Deism, Zoroastrianism, the eternal forces of good, battling the eternal forces of evil for all time. And those two parties came to Brahma's ashram. The king of the demigods, Indra, the king of the demons, Virochana, they both came to Brahma's ashram. They wanted to discover what is the best way to fight and defeat our enemies. And that is the purpose of religion. We have to fight the forces of evil until they are all defeated and we are victorious, and then we are reigning in the kingdom of heaven. Then what happens from that mentality? Then you're in heaven as the king of heaven, and then you dishonor your guru, and then again you're defeated. Because that's not really satisfying your essential desire. So we, in our movement, we are not battling evil. And we are not claiming to be the most righteous, champions of goodness against the forces of darkness. We're not in that paradigm. Demigod versus demon, demon versus demigod, good versus bad, good versus evil. No. Our process is every soul is inherently pure. That's what Lord Brahma taught them. They came to his ashram saying, tell us about the Atma so that we can conquer our enemies. And he said, that's not the point of self-realization. The point of self-realization is not to become more powerful than your enemies. The point of self-realization is come to a state of ananda, bliss. And that ananda is the wellspring coming, bubbling up from the realization of your form as a unique individual spirit soul in relation to the Supreme Spirit, God. That leads to the taste of ananda. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, the way we went into that long tangent is because his name is Goswami. Goswami means he who's mastered his senses. But if you simply try to master your senses by restraining the urge to enjoy your senses, it's very, very difficult to be successful. So therefore, what we recommend is, Lord Nityananda is the most merciful. He went to everyone's door and said, Haribo, chant Krishna's name. Chant and be happy. Swami Prabhupada didn't say chant and then this and this and this. There is some yam niyam. That means we learn to restrain our senses from unbridled sense enjoyment. But we also practice yukta vairagya, appropriate renunciation. Our Gurudev would say some people lock themselves in a cave because they're trying to restrain their senses so badly, so hard. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm committing violence, this and that. So they just put a stone in front of them and stay in a cave. They starve to death and become a ghost. It's not a solution. Krishna says you can restrain your senses from the objects of the senses, but desire for the senses' enjoyment still remains. Therefore, you must develop higher taste. That is through bhakti ras. So, singing, kirtan, it's a joyful experience. Swami Prabhupada came and preached and had Sunday love feast. My parents went to one of his love feasts. He wasn't there at the time, but they were amazed. Steve Jobs at his address, I believe it was it Stanford? One of these addresses he gave, he said, I would go every Sunday to the Hare Krishna temple and they would feed me and then we would dance. It was beautiful. It was pure. It was old-time religion, right? So our essential process is joyful. Everyone would come together and eat amazing. We had an amazing lunch today. Does that mean we are sinners? Are we sinful because we enjoyed the Lord's remnants? No. This is a saintly practice. But when we are preparing the food, we are preparing it for his pleasure. And we have to make it therefore nice, pleasurable. And then when we are relishing it, we're relishing the nectar of his lips, that he has tasted this. The Lord is so powerful through any of his senses, he can accept our offering, and he really accepts the offering of love. And when he accepts the offering of love, that energy of love becomes present. Then that food becomes Annamaya Brahma, spiritual essence filled with bliss, Ananda. And by taking it, ahar suddhe sattva suddhe, your body becomes spiritualized, you become blissful. So that's a big part of our process. Take Mahaprasad. How much? How much Mahaprasad? Akanda Puriya Prasad Sevan, Nachigao Koro Bhakta Sang. Take it up to your neck and dance. Right? So that it settles in nicely so you have more room. Why does he say you have to dance after taking prasad? So you have more room to take prasad. This is the beginning of our spiritual practice. We are not negationists. We are not voidists. We are not nihilists. We celebrate the glory of God, the beauty of God, the sweetness of God, and our unique spiritual nature and the process of discovering our relationship with Krishna, with the beautiful absolute truth. That is our essential process. So we take prasadam, we hear about Krishna, we sing about Krishna, we develop love for Krishna through his deity form, through his darshan. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada taught that in all his temples, and he spread the message. Primary limb is spreading of the message and practicing the teaching. So you spread the message as your service, and you practice the teaching to lead you to the experience. Right? So that is our same philosophy here. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was given the title Prabhupada. He is eternally present at the lotus feet of Krishna, and he brings others to the presence of Sri Krishna and the shelter of Sri Krishna. His chief disciple, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, his successor in the Bhagavat Parampara, his spiritual successor, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, is also given the title Prabhupada, and this is by the Lord's will. They are both Prabhupada. And to negate either as Prabhupada is a subtle form of offense. Right? For us in the present day. I'm not speaking to the behavior of exalted souls or those who were his direct peers. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada's disciples, not his peers, his disciples would not refer to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada as Prabhupada because amongst them, they reserve that title for their guru. But for us, as disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, or as disciple of disciple of Bhaktivedanta Siddhanta Prabhupada, or Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, right? Disciples of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, or disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, for all Gaudiya Vaishnavas in this generation coming, we should honor Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. They are both Prabhupada. To minimize one or the other, to glorify one at the expense of the other, is inappropriate. Right? They are both Prabhupada. With or without our recommendation, with or without our consent, they are Prabhupada. God's will is more mighty than our will. So we may say, oh, he is Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. But really, for us, he is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. That is our temple here. He is Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And why? He is the very dear, most son of his guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. All his sons are very dear. But he who fulfills the heart's desire, the manobishtam, naturally receives his rightful glory and praise. What task he accomplished by the will of the Lord, by the will of Lord Nityananda, is unprecedented, and that transcendental service is continuing to be going on throughout this world. Therefore, our gurus, our teachers have instructed us, take shelter of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. That is why we came to New York, only for his blessing and for his grace to connect to him. And our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, who we honor as Bhakta Bandhav because this is the title given to him in 1947. And so to also not accept his title is another form of neglect. This title was given to him in 1947, not 97, not 2007. 50 years before that. 50 years before 97, he preached in 96. And 60 years before 2007, he's given the title Bhakta Bandhav, the friend of all devotees. And what is the meaning of Bhakta Bandhav? It's very similar to Prabhupada. You know why? Prabhupada means he who is at the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, who brings people to the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. What is the meaning of Bhakta Bandhav? Krishna himself describes the meaning of Bhakta Bandhav in the Puranas to Arjuna, and it's quoted by Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas. And there's 10 verses, and he says, Ashmakam Bandhava Bhakta Bhaktanam Bandhava Vayam. I am the dearmost friend of my devotees, and the real devotees, the pure devotees, are my dearmost friends. So what is the nature of Gurudev? He is Krishna's dearmost friend. Param Gurudev is giving him that title. You are the dearmost friend of Krishna. And you have so much compassion and love for all jivas, for all devotees. Our Gurudev, since he joined the mat, he would take care of devotees, not just the good devotees, like the Nityananda Prabhu's mood, Jagai Madais, those who were naughty, those who would fight, those who would quarrel. Gurudev took care of them. Gurudev helped them. Param Gurudev, his guru, had the same mood. Some disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada were very mischievous, were very, they would cause fights and this and that. And Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said they have to leave the temple. Param Gurudev was the manager. He would not kick them out. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada had somebody else kick them out. And then afterwards, Param Gurudev went to their home and preached to them for months and months and then brought them back to the temple and changed their mentality. It's not that we endorse misbehavior, but every soul doesn't have... See, this is the thing Brahma taught in the beginning. It's in Chandogya Upanishad. When Brahma created his ashram, he said the soul is sinless and pure. This is our basic understanding. Prahlad Maharaj speaks that in the Bhagavatam. Atma nitya shuddha. The soul is eternally pure. How do we understand this? We are not the body or mind. And now we are stuck in the cycle of birth and death on the machine of material nature. And so self-realization means to transcend the egoic states of the false self, the false identity. And we have responsibility, we perform karma, and we get reactions for it. But essentially, the soul is beyond this action-reaction cycle. And so self-realization means the torchlight of divine knowledge leads you to realization. And Krishna says in chapter 4, Jnana is higher than karma. Knowledge is higher than action, because by knowledge you can realize that I am not the doer of material activities. I am transcendental. I am Atma. Right? So spiritual life teaches I am Atma. And what is the nature of that Atma? And higher than Jnana is Bhakti. So what does Krishna say? Higher than Jnana is Yoga, higher than Yoga is Bhakti Yoga. Therefore he says, Tapasvi Bhyodiko Yogi, Yoginam api. Higher than Tapasva is Yoga. Therefore become a yogi. Tasmad Yogi Bhavarjuna. Arjuna become a yogi. And what is the highest form of yoga? Yoginam api sarvesham. Those who develop love of God, they are the best of all yogis. That is the highest connection. So therefore, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, and our Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, who is given that title Bhakta Bandhav. Bhakta Bandhav means the friend of all devotees, and they are the friend of all devotees because they are the dearmost friend of Krishna. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those who distribute my message are my dear friends. And then the next verse, Krishna says, Jagatam Guruvo Bhakta Bhaktanam Guruvo Vayam. The devotees are the gurus of the world. That doesn't mean they have to initiate someone to be a guru. The real devotees of Krishna, by their very presence, by every action, Arjuna asked Krishna, what is the nature of devotee? How do I understand a devotee? How do they sit? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they move about? Rupa Goswami says it's not so easy to define. Dristvai Sabhava Janita. One devotee may be harsh, maybe speak harshly. We had our Bhaktivedanta Trivikrama Goswami Maharaj. He was so sweet. I knew him since I was 9 years old. And, my father brought me to him. I like to tell these two stories because they're very sweet. I met him at 9. He would let me, he would sit on like a simple, we have these beds with, like a cot with like rope mesh. And he would sit on them, and I have pictures of me with my little backpack. I went to India when I was 9. He would have me sit there, and he asked my father one day, I was sick, so I came to him. He was a doctor. And so he said, what is his problem? He said, this. And he said, who is this boy anyway? He said, he is my son. My father said, no, he's not. He's our son. He's our son. We're going to take him. He said, he is spirit, soul. Who are you, father? This body is the father. Bone is the father. Marrow is the father. The soul is spirit. The soul's father is God, and the soul's relationship is with Guru and Krishna. Right? So he said, this is the father. And with my mother was sick. And he would treat everyone's sickness. And she had a bad cough and some mucus. So he said, I want to see the color of your mucus. Is it yellow? Is it half green, half yellow? Is it white? By this, I can understand what kind of medicine to give you. And she said, I don't know exactly. He said, well, spit in my hand. I'll look. She said, how is this possible? He is 80-year-old saintly sannyasi, one of the 3 people managing this whole mission, many, many temples. He had 35, 40 temples at that time. And he, his godbrother Vamana Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Gurudev were the 3 people, the 3 pillars of the whole society. And he said, spit in my hand. She was very shy. I can't do it. She tells the story again and again. He asked her. So he did it. And he looked and he said, okay, here's your medicine. And he washed his hands. He's not attached to the body, but sometimes he was harsh. So is a devotee harsh? A devotee is a devotee. Narad Muni is a devotee, and he's ultimate mischievous person. He's very mischievous. And then you find some devotees who are very peaceful, who are very soft. Vamana Goswami Maharaj is very soft, very gentle. So you cannot categorize devotees by their external characteristics even. A devotee is a devotee is a devotee is a devotee. Okay? What is the nature of devotee? Okay, I told everyone now. Devotee is a devotee is a devotee is a devotee. That's a devotee. How do you define love? You can't. Love is love. Right? That is its definition. God is love. Love is God. Devotees love God. There are many characteristics, many signs. But essentially, Arjuna was trying to ask him, what is the nature of a devotee? The essential nature of a devotee, there are 26 symptoms of a Vaishnava, a devotee. But the essential symptom is that they love God and they have surrendered their heart to God. And then God accepts all. Look at Lord Ram. He had many devotees of many even animal species of life. But our Gurudev, very dear friend of Krishna, because he didn't see anyone for their external material good or bad. He saw their spiritual nature, and therefore he was able to awaken them and to not judge them, but to give everyone mercy and love and to bring everyone closer to Krishna and to the shelter of Srimati Radhika. So this is our Bhagavad Parampara. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and our Bhakta Bandhav, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj in our line. This is our Bhagavad Parampara. But Bhagavad Parampara is not just us. Bhagavad Parampara is the whole mission of Mahaprabhu. It's not, we are disciples of Srila Gurudev, therefore this is our Bhagavad Parampara. And we are followers of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, therefore this is our Bhagavad Parampara. No, this is the Bhagavad Parampara. Understand? This is the Bhagavad Parampara, the mission of Mahaprabhu, spreading throughout the world. And all acharyas are there, and we honor all acharyas with great respect and with great honor. And we come to that great family of Lord Chaitanya's followers, and we honor all. In our Radhakunj temple and here also, every appearance day of any great personality, we celebrate them, we hear their glories. We don't minimize anyone, we glorify them all. But also, who is taking that full responsibility to help all jivas come closer to Krishna? That is the Bhagavad Parampara, self-realized masters who know their eternal swarup, their form, their relationship with Krishna, and who are capable to bring the jivas who are lost in Maya, to sever their attachment to Maya, and to bring them to the bliss of pure bhakti. So that is our Guru Varga. And I'm going to read a few verses here before we end about Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. He was a very unconventional preacher in some ways, right? So there are 8 specialities described by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Many specialities, but these are some he describes. He wrote a song about him in 1960 on his 86th appearance day. All right? And he speaks about separation from his spiritual master, and then he speaks about the gift of Mahaprabhu, right? And he speaks about real renunciation. So we also practice renunciation. I'm a monk. I've been a monk my whole life. I've never taken intoxication. I've never taken alcohol. I've never had material enjoyment. I've never had sex. None of those things. But that doesn't mean I'm dry prune, raisin, miserable, and life is suffering. No, my life is blissful. I'm joyful. I'm happy. Why? Because my Guru is great. His mercy is great. Krishna is beautiful and great. Srimati Radhika is great. It's a beautiful, blissful experience, but it includes renunciation. Why? Because the more we want to relish that highest thing, the more we lose taste for material things. It's a natural byproduct. Real renunciation is a natural byproduct of the development of bhakti. So, now I'm just giving the essence of these teachings of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada about his Guru. What kind of renunciates are they who are bewildered by ignorance? They are phony renunciants, giving up things externally. Renunciation takes place from transcendental realization. Without realization, renunciation is called being a bottle akya. So he speaks in Bengali, but he uses some English. Aprakrita anubhave hoy se vairagya. Anubhav vina se sho bottle akya. This is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's writing. Renunciation takes place from transcendental realization. Without realization, renunciation is called being a show bottle. All right? The other kind of show bottle, ar ek show bottle. He actually says it the second time in Bengali. Show batal. That's Bengali. Show batal. The first time he says it in Bengali, show bottle, akya. And the second time he says, ar ek show batal. Pracharer tare, prabhura sannyas je mayavare hare. The other kind of show bottle for preaching is for preaching like the Lord's own sannyas, which defeated the Mayavadis. Let's see what he's saying here. That message of Lord Chaitanya is beyond the practice of Vanashram. That Bhagavad Dharma destroys all deceit. That means the highest spirituality is that which awakens your relationship with Krishna. That is real spirituality. Engaging in dry renunciation. So this is the first speciality. He's talking about the difference between dry renunciation and proper renunciation. So we're going to hear different specialities of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada from his disciple, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Okay? Engaging in dry renunciation, preaching will not be effective. So our philosophy is not to wring the life out of life and then just be shriveled up, raisins and prunes, no rasa. That's why we take nice prasadam and we're full of rasa, too much rasa, overflowing with rasa. So our path is very sweet. Holistic renunciation is the quintessence, right? That sannyas that you gave is for preaching bhakti, which the miscreant indulgence are hopeless to fathom. Our gurus sometimes, they know how to use heavy language also to separate, reality from illusion. All right, so we like hearing this. We're going to hear the second speciality. Yes? I told everyone before class started, when you're ready for me to end, you can just start heckling me. All right? So the second speciality. Sannyas koriya thake parvata garvare tumi prabhu rakotare ham yera marmare. Some people think sannyas, or being a monk, is to live in a mountain cave. So we're in a mountainous region, but we're not in caves. But, oh master, you place your monks in mansion chambers. He got a big temple in Calcutta that was very beautiful. It was like a royal mansion. To behold a materialist is to consume poison. Oh master, you gave your audience to governors and great Englishmen. Right? So this is appropriate renunciation. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada is glorifying his guru. We'll hear more why he's glorifying him like this. Malechas and yavanas are forbidden in Hindu temples. So that means any outsiders who are not following the Hindu practices and faith are not allowed in their temple. If you're eating meat and so on, according to your culture and your religion. People are eating, in Judaism, they're eating meat according to the rules of kosher and that they're following their religion. But a Hindu traditionalist would say, you can't come in our temple because you're not following our ways. Or if you're Muslim and you're taking halal according to your sacred rites, they say, no, you can't come in our temple. You're not following our religion. But Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said what? He made them chairmen and had them sit in his own residence. Such is his vision. This is Sanatana Dharma. It is an eternal religion. Right? This is all the material game of life going on according to the modes of nature. Some are eating meat, some are not eating meat. But essentially, being a vegetarian is not a higher moral code. It's higher on material morality. But transcendental morality, what's the difference? Unless you realize God, it's all immoral. So vegetarianism helps bring you to realization of God. It's favorable to the higher evolution of consciousness, and we don't recommend eating meat. But that doesn't mean we condemn meat eaters and say they cannot be religious. There are many people throughout history who have taken meat and who are great saintly people. How can you understand? This is Sanatana Dharma. It's fine understanding. So therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, just like Mahaprabhu embraced everyone. Chandale Brahmane. It's said in scripture, Aho bata svapachodo guriyan yad jivagre varti namatubam tepusta, that someone who is born in an outcast family, even in a dog-eater family, if they are chanting the names of the Lord with love, with faith, developing devotion, they are considered the highest human being. Arya, the highest Arya. So this is his vision. So verse 14. Crossing the ocean is forbidden for Hindus, priests. Hindu priests do not cross the ocean. But you send devotees to deliver those shores and beyond. What is beyond? Who knows? In the future, right? All the planets have to be distributed. Bhakti. All right? 15. Staying in the city of Kali, Calcutta, was forbidden by the order of your guru. But it is specifically there that you stayed most frequently. Why? When he was asked about this, he said, I never went to Calcutta. Have you heard this, Mataji? He said, I never went to Calcutta. I was always in Vraj. Every center he made, he said, this is a branch office of Vrindavan. And I was always speaking about Krishna, hearing Krishna. I never went to Calcutta. Right? I've never been to New York City. Right? Because anytime we go, what are we doing? We're chanting Krishna's names, we're bringing Krishna's names, we're distributing bhakti literature, and we're helping bring people to Krishna. And we are present with Krishna. So our purpose is not to travel and enjoy our senses. Anywhere we go, we carry our faith and we spread our faith. 16. Devotees want to live in caves in solitude. That is not acceptable by your standard. 17. Wherever there were the largest congregations of people, there one would see your preaching activities. In Calcutta, he would arrange festivals where 100,000 people would come. He would have a spiritual dioramas, much like the festival of India that disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada are doing. They go everywhere and they set up changing bodies. You are not the body, you are the soul. What is God? And they teach about karma and bhakti, yoga, and so forth. Right? Next verse. Londonete chatrabash koribar chao, paripati jate hoy se katha bujao. You wanted to make a resident for students of Bhakti in London, and you explained the methodology to properly do that. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada's vision. To make a student's residence for Harikatha, that means for spiritual discourse about Krishna, in a Malecha country, a country where people are outside the Vedic system. Who can understand these subtle topics of why you had this desire? Number 20. Reconciling all these contradictions is not a game for trifling reasoning. So people would say, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, they tried to kill him for these things he did. And as we discussed yesterday, he taught that all souls are equal, that everyone can take initiation into this path. And that anyone can even become a guru in this path. You don't have to be Indian, you can be Westerner, you can be from any country. Why? The soul is not Western or Indian, the soul is spiritual. And it's part and parcel of Krishna. So he taught like this and people were very opposed. So we go to the third topic or finish? I'm here at your desire. Third topic, okay. Third speciality, Jai, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu, good. He's a proper student of Harikatha. So keep going. 3 hours class. Shabai milia bhashi jari chinta kore tabai sucharu hoy se shaba prachare. If everyone comes together thoughtfully, then only in preaching does everything become smooth and beautiful. So now in this speciality, he starts talking to his god brothers how to work together. Hence, your order for all of us to cooperate, to carry out the task of preaching, is immersed in this sacred message. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, before he left, he said, all my disciples should work together with humility, following the example of Rupa and Raghunath. Trying to imitate will lead to a contrary result. All the days that pass will be crippled. So don't imitate the great personalities if you're not on their level. Come back even now as per our Master's order. Let us all come together to immerse ourselves in devotion and worship to Him. Worship, now he talks about how to worship Guru. Who knows how to worship Guru? Worship is not conducted by flowers, fruits, and festivals. Only one who is a servant of His transcendental message renders true worship of Him. To distribute His message is our primary activity. When we wake up in the morning, we should be excited about what? Distributing His message. And the second thing we should be excited about is practicing bhakti, coming to the experience of connection to Krishna. Those two things are what drives us when we wake up in the morning. To share His message, because that is our sacred covenant with Him. When you take initiation from Guru, the covenant you form is that I will engage my intelligence, my mind, my energies in distributing this message, because there are souls suffering in this world who by hearing this can come to the state of grace and salvation. So I will engage in that activity, and I will practice bhakti by chanting, by meditation, by service, everything we're doing in the temple, cooking for the Lord, serving the Lord. But if we do not preach, then it's said we are not even alive. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada's statement. He said, those who do not preach are not even alive in my mission. Those who have life, they preach. So those who are eunuchs, cowards, crippled and lame and blind, they lay in their bed and think, oh, I'm practicing bhajan. I'm a bhajananandi. I'm a lazy anandi. The enjoyment of lethargy. This is not those who have life. Those who have life, they preach. Service rendered to the Vani, or the message, is itself Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, and is connected to the transcendental Lord. Come back, brothers, do not be proud. Now he gives an example. Kalidas Nag, a great professor of his time, said once in an open assembly, Kali's mission covers the whole earth. That is the mission of the embodiment of sinful tendencies in this world now. Kali Maharaj, the king of this age, is deceit, sin, quarrel, violence, war. All these things is the embodiment of this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So this professor is saying, Kali's mission is covering the whole earth. So why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission just in a little cage? Right? This is not an ordinary Kali Yuga. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Yuga. Okay? This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Prema Yuga. Therefore, it's not Kali Yuga. What is it? Dhanya Kali Juge Rache Tanya Avatara Chaitanya Avatar. This age is glorious because of the advent of Lord Chaitanya. So this professor is saying, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message in a cage? No. Five, we have no shame, brothers, Swami Prabhupada is saying in 1960. We have no shame. Like tricky businessmen, we flaunt disciples. I have followers. Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Prabhupada would say that people make a pretense of traveling to the West to gain a few followers, to come back to India and then preach and collect more money in India to maintain their temples. And he spoke like that to say that actually it is the real desire of Swami Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, is the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this message is broadcast through the whole world, because that is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is for every living entity. Okay? So therefore, it's not our business to go to the West to collect and bring to India. No, we take from India and we bring to the West. That's what Gurudev said. I've not come from poor India to take from the rich West to bring back to rich, poor India. No, I've come from the wealthiest country in the land, the wealth of the sages of India who have realized the reality of the soul and distributed that message. I've brought that wealth to you to make you eternally wealthy. I've brought the wealth of India to make the poor West wealthy. Materially wealth is not spiritual wealth. So, that is why our master said to preach. Let the neophytes join together to ring bells. Verse 30. Okay? Should we go to the fourth speciality? Okay. Vrindavan Chandrapur is my, I need to keep going forward because it's getting late. It's 8. No, we didn't start till 7:20. So we got, okay. You want to hear more, Kanchana? Are you ready to preach? Come on, I need to hear you're ready to preach. You don't sound ready. I'm ready.
Ready. So ready.
Vrindavan Chandra, you ready? Vrindavan? Are you ready, Vrindavan? Tirtha, you ready? Stephen, you ready? Come on, Stephen, let's hear some fire in it. You ready? Come on, Jai with some vigor. Come on, louder. Jai. Chandrika? Okay, everybody online? Jai. Haribo. Let's preach. Okay. Jai. All right. Oh, he's getting more strong now. Fourth speciality. All this is not the standard of Prabhu's preaching. All this is what the caste system gurus have done. So he's saying having a dynamic spirit of preaching with an equal mind towards all, with a truly loving vision towards all beings, not judging each other. He's saying the purpose of a temple is not just to collect enough to maintain your temple and ring a bell. That is what the caste Goswamis do, and they're happy just with some wealthy disciples that they can maintain their life comfortably. So Swami Prabhupada now gets strong. Look at the pitiable condition that has ensued. They have all become sense enjoyers and have left preaching. Even their temples are beginning to be locked shut. So therefore, preach the Bhagavat message, do not delay. On this Medini, so now he quotes a verse, and it's a point they have in Bengal. It's a very interesting point here. Medinira madde ache ekati medini, kimva shabde jai tava asham bedini. So this means there's one name for the earth that's called Medini. But that's also a village in Bengal called Medinipur. So the village is called Medinipur, the town of the Medini. But one name of the earth is Medini. So, Mahaprabhu once said, Prithiviti ache jata nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar hoibe moranam. That in every town and village of this earth, this message will be sung. And the names of God will be distributed. Jai Nitai Gauranga, Shri Radha Krishna, Mahamantra, this will be distributed. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Swami Prabhupada took this desire of the Lord and distributed this message everywhere. Therefore, he showed that he is a son and he received the title of his father, Prabhupada. Right? Father has a last name, surname, son receives that surname. So therefore, there's nothing wrong here. This is also said in Sastra, not one person has the title right to exclusively be Prabhupada. So anyhow, that's going separately to a different topic. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada is saying, people said Mahaprabhu meant just Medinipur. People said, Mahaprabhu meant that in every town and village of Bengal. Because that's Medinipur. But no, he said Prithiviti ache, in every town and village of this whole earth. So verse 35, he quotes like a logic. The mullah knows nothing beyond the mosque. That's his logic now. Quit this sort of preaching today. Stop. When I was in India last year, my mentor there said, don't preach to your Sangha. What is your Sangha? Few people here and there bickering. Right? Spread this message of Gurudev to the world. That is your duty. Distribute this message of Godhead. Distribute this message of the Bhagavat. Not to, what happens? Oh, I've been a devotee for 40 years. Now I'm going to judge everybody. That is my advancement. I am so advanced that now finally I've achieved the position of a high court judge. And one day I'll become Supreme Court judge. And I'll be able to decide how everyone is bogus, but my ideas. I'm the only one who knows anything right. That is not preaching. Yes?
No.
You want to be a high court judge? I didn't hear you.
No. Absolutely not.
Neither do I. Okay. So, the mullah knows nothing beyond the mosque. So we should spread this message to those who are eager, who are looking for spiritual life. One of the offenses is to constantly preach to the faithless and those who are antagonistic towards the Lord and his devotees. But an intermediate level devotee will neglect that. Right? Upeksha. They won't focus on that. They have love for God, friendship with other devotees, compassion to the ignorant and the fallen who are looking for it sincerely, but they will neglect those who are very powerful, entrenched in that demonic mentality. They will neglect. But that doesn't mean you only preach to your peers. It's very easy to preach to the choir. Everyone's like, wow, what you said was amazing, I love it. No, preach to those people who say, bogus. Like that also. Verse 36. Crossing the oceans and continents and piercing the universe, everyone come together and form a preaching army. That's Swami Prabhupada's vision. Asamudra medini par, brahmanda bedini, shakale milia koro prachar vahani. Swami Prabhupada started the Bandhav Sena. It was a preaching movement for youth, and it was all about how to form a preaching army. Swami Prabhupada was very vigorous like that. He had that Holy Spirit coursing through every pore of his being. That was Lord Nityananda Prabhu's desire and energy. So he said, let us cross the oceans and continents and pierce the covering of the universe. And in this way, let us all come together and form a preaching army. Do I hear a yes?
Yes.
Do I hear a yes? He's countering this idea. Medinipur was in Assam. So he said, we're just preaching in Assam. And he said, no. Instead of just preaching in Assam, which is one province of India, he said, Asamudra Medinipar. Let's cross over Assam. And one meaning means crossing through the whole universe, but really he's saying, let us break out this message. Kali Maharaj's message is going on throughout the world. Why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message in a cage? Why? Therefore, when you wake up in the morning, what is your purpose? Distribute this message and practice bhakti yoga. Experience devotion in your own life, serve, but also distribute this message. Use your intelligence to distribute this message. Verse 37. Tabe se prabhur pujar habe paripati. Then you are worshipping Mahaprabhu. Aja I pratigya koro charu kutinati. Today take a vow to do this and give up all deceit and duplicity. Make a vow to do this every day. I am here for the experience, self-realization, but my service is to distribute the message. You understand? My personal practice is to experience bhakti, my connection with Krishna, develop love and devotion, pure devotion, but my activity and my service is to distribute this message. Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get a Haribo? Okay, Jai. Verse 38. This very day, let us gather together and discuss. Let us align our differing views and decide what to do, how to do this, okay? Can I get a Haribo? You have become a renunciant, O brother, so you renounce everything. You are even renouncing your service and the service of distributing this message. What kind of renunciation is that? Okay? Verse 40. Those who enjoy Guru and those who renounce him are both useless. That means enjoying the property of Guru gives you a nice place, and we're very comfortably enjoying that place. That is enjoying Guru. And renouncing Guru means giving up his service, which means how do we serve him? What did he say in the previous verse? Flowers and festivals? No, distributing his message, serving his message, that is service. You understand? That is service. So, 41. This is the fifth speciality. How much left do we have? Maybe we have to do this tomorrow. Let's see, we have 5, 6, 7, and 8. So there's a lot left. So I think let's wrap up here in a minute, okay? I don't know how many Haribos you all have left. Do you have one more Haribo? All right, everybody here, you have any Haribos left? Can I get a Haribo? Haribo. All right, so where do we leave off? All right, so I think we're going to leave off with some nice kirtan. Let me read this, okay, here. Prabhupada bolyachen se bani shesh pragyata korohotar ashesh vishesh. Prabhupada said these words in his final days. Strive for this tirelessly, diligently, and endlessly. You should. What is he saying? Swayam Bhagavan kahe ekala amar nahi bholo shaba mili koroho prachar. Bhagavan Mahaprabhu said, on my own we have no strength. Therefore we should all come together to preach. Right? Leave your wealth for the sake of preaching. Sit together and engage in careful deliberation. Right? If there is a solitary lord with growing affluence, that is mundane prestige. The saintly soul gives this up. Your gold, brothers, your wealth fosters laziness. Prabhupada has said that tirelessly. He said, if necessary, sell the bricks of the temple and print books and distribute books. That's what Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada told Swami Prabhupada. Bhagavan himself said, on my own we cannot preach, therefore come together to preach. Those same words he spoke in his final days, therefore strive for that endlessly and diligently. Otherwise, everything will be undone in futile toil. Therefore, beware, sadhus, for later you will regret it. Is it so hard to band together? Why am I having to say this so many times? He published this in Gaudiya Patrika, the Bengali magazine of Param Gurudev. 1960, this was published in Bengali in the wide-scale distribution of the literature at that time. It was the most famous magazine after the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada in 1937. So he published this, and he said, give up stubbornness and strive for people's welfare, for there's no time. Come, all brothers, on this auspicious day of meeting. So this is the end of the fifth speciality. We have 6, 7, and 8 remaining for tomorrow. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Saparsat Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Srila Bhakta Bandhav Srila Gurudeva ki. Vaishnav Thakur ki jai. Sevaratna Prabhuji ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari 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 Bo.